Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow.
If you own a car, would you take your car for repairs to a mechanic whose own car does not run well? Would you take your car to a mechanic who says, put whatever you please in the fuel tank? Kerosene, gasoline, diesel fuel, dirt, water. So why go to any doctor who eats junk food? Why go to any doctor who smokes cigarettes? Why go to any doctor who is fat? Why go to any doctor who has not studied nutrition? Why go to any doctor who knows almost nothing about healing herbs and vitamins? Why go to any doctor who does not ask you what you eat? Who does not ask you how much you walk and exercise? Why go to any doctor who does not ask how much sleep and sunshine you get? Why go to any doctor who does not ask you if you have close friendships? Because loneliness kills. Why go to any doctor who does not welcome your questions on health? Why go to any doctor who is not honest and humble? Why go to any doctor who does not admit he or she sometimes makes mistakes as a doctor? Why go to any doctor who acts as if he or she has nothing more to learn? Why go to any doctor who mainly prescribes drugs instead of seeing and concentrating on the causes of your sickness? I've had no medical doctor for many years. I've taken no prescription drugs for over 25 years. I do not have yearly physical exams, maybe never in my life a complete physical as they give now. I aim, if possible, to avoid going to doctors the rest of my life. But none of us know for sure. Something very serious could happen to me today as I walk home, landing me in a hospital with a doctor. But I do my damnedest to avoid that. I eat only healthy raw plant foods plus raw honey and bee pollen. I walk, I exercise much, I get enough sleep, I sunbathe a lot for vitamin D. I have close friends, I aim to forgive, and I aim to ask for forgiveness. Most hospital beds would be empty if we all get serious about eating and living healthy. I've studied health for over 47 years. Hundreds of books, articles, speakers, documentaries, conversations, my own experiences. There's always more to learn. And to learn again, because sometimes we drift away from what we had learned. Always more to learn about being healthy and staying healthy. If you're faced with possible serious surgery or other major medical procedures, go to several different doctors for their opinions. Many autopsies show the cause of death was not what the dead person was being treated for. We all make many mistakes in life, and that includes doctors. If you need a doctor, do your damnedest to find a doctor who believes in natural healing, a doctor who lives healthy, him or herself, a doctor who only uses drugs and surgery as a last choice unless it's an emergency. If you believe in God, if you believe God is a loving, fair parent to all people on earth, does God, your God, approve many millions of people in this nation hogging far more money, far more stuff than anyone needs, while many millions worldwide suffer cold and hunger, sickness, with no home? Does your God approve spending many thousands on a luxury box for your decaying dead body when millions of living children go to bed hungry and sleep on the street? If you're a loving father or mother, would you approve one adult son or daughter living in a huge mansion while your other adult son or daughter is sick, living in squalor on the street? In Haiti, 60%, over one half of the people live or survive, shall I say, on $2 per day. Not $2 per hour, $2 per day. Did those people in Haiti in severe poverty choose to be born there? Did we choose to be born here? How would any loving, fair parent God approve any religious person, Christian or Jew or Muslim, living in a big fancy house while other people have no home? Does your God want loads of money spent on church buildings? Never once in the Bible did Jesus ask his followers to build him any building, let alone a big fancy building. Jesus taught his followers to help those most in need and to befriend the outcasts of society. Do you know any preachers or priests or rabbis or imams or TV evangelists who emphasize living simply and fairly in our world family of 8 billion people? I have no right to much more than I need while many millions worldwide suffer on far less than they need. If religious leaders said that, and they lived that, many so-called religious people in congregations would get upset, offended, and they'd drop out. The money collected in most congregations would drop big time. Too much truth, scaring people off. I no longer believe in God. I was a sincere 20-year-old Christian preacher in Illinois 56 years ago. I was as sincere then as I am now, but I had not yet questioned deeply the Bible and my faith. I thank many people who helped me open my eyes on my very long journey away from religion. 56 years ago, If I had heard me say what I'm just saying to you now, I would have been absolutely shocked, horrified. Big changes in our lives often do not come easily or quickly. I wish, don't get me wrong, I wish we had a fair, loving, all-powerful parent God who helped all people who pray desperately for help. But millions worldwide for thousands of years have prayed desperately for help from hurricanes, family violence, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires, floods, wars, starvation, and much more, and received no help. Think of 8-year-old Jose, who goes to Sunday school. The kind teacher tells Jose and the other children in her class that Jesus in the Bible promises God will help people who pray for help when they're suffering. And that night, Jose's drunken father comes home, as he often has, night after night, cursing Jose's mother, beating her. And this particular night, this Sunday night, after the Sunday school teacher had told the kids, Jesus promised that God will help those who pray for help. This particular night, Jose's father seems especially drunk and crazy and mean. And Jose is afraid that his father is going to kill his mother that night. And so Jose prays desperately, "Oh God, stop my dad from killing my mother." But Jose's father pulls out his gun and shoots Jose's mother in the head, killing her instantly. If we were Jose, would we still believe Jesus' promises for those who pray? Would Jose's Sunday school teacher understand why Jose stopped coming to church? Does a Sunday school teacher still believe that God helps those who pray? Daniel was my only Albuquerque friend who visited me on our Illinois farm where I grew up. My longtime dear friend Daniel was from Martineztown here in Albuquerque. And in 1984, he spent weeks with my dad and me in Illinois. My mother had already died. Daniel drove trucks there in our family business. And over 26 years later, in 2011, Daniel told me here in Albuquerque that he wanted sex with me for the first time, but not a relationship. Daniel said if I told anyone, he would kill me and maybe kill himself. I did not have sex with Daniel. I want to celebrate sex with a friend, not hide it as a poison secret to keep him from killing me and killing himself. And as he left my home that day, Daniel told me, "I love you, And maybe that was the only time that he told me, I love you, since I met him 39 years before. The next day, Daniel was dead, attacked violently, and killed on the street. I was devastated. I deeply loved Daniel. And I dedicate today's program to my beloved Daniel. God is not going to stop the climate crisis. Billions of people praying to God are not going to stop the climate crisis. Billions of people praying to God are not going to prevent nuclear war. We human beings caused the climate crisis. It's too late now to stop the climate crisis, but we can slow it if we wake up now. If we make huge changes in how we live, huge changes in what we eat away from the meat and the dairy, huge changes in how and how much we travel, huge changes in how many children we have. If we enjoy living much more simply and start right now, we can slow the climate crisis. God is not going to prevent nuclear war. Did God stop the United States from atom bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan in 1945, mass murdering over 140,000 people? The United States is the only nation on earth that has atom bombed cities. How many people in this country know that? The only nation on earth that has atom bombed cities. I damn Putin's increased nuclear alert, risking nuclear war. And I damn U.S. presidents threatening to use nuclear bombs at least 32 times since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I damn all war by any nation. I damn Putin's mass murder in Ukraine. And I damn the U.S. mass murder of hundreds of thousands of people, men, women, and kids in Iraq some years ago. Do we remember? Do we give a damn? Are U.S. mass murders in war less evil than Putin's mass murders in war? I damn Putin's bloody invasion of Ukraine. And I damn the U.S. mass murder of millions of people in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. I damn Putin's mass murder in Ukraine, and I damn the U.S. supplying billions of dollars and weapons to Israel to murder hundreds of Palestinian boys and girls. I damn Putin's mass murder in Ukraine, and I damn the U.S. mass murder of hundreds of thousands of people, men, women, and kids in El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala. I damn Putin's war in Ukraine, and I damn Obama's murder by drones of many people in Afghanistan, Yemen, and Pakistan. Putin's war against Ukraine is fueling hatred and revenge against the Russian government. The U.S. mass murder of millions in many nations under both Republican and Democrat presidents fuels hatred and revenge toward the U.S. government. And as Prophet Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1967, 55 years ago, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government. And notice, Martin Luther King Jr. did not say that the U.S. is the only purveyor of violence. Hell no. Many nations commit horrendous evil. But Martin Luther King Jr. said the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government. The U.S. is constantly telling other nations to shape up. But sadly, the U.S. refuses to stop stealing resources and cheap labor from many nations, refuses to stop murdering people. So, absolute bloody hypocrisy. The U.S. claims to be the best. It's like a man who says he is the best husband, but he beats his wife even worse and more often than other husbands beat their wives. I wish nations and companies had sanctioned the U.S. for its wars as they are doing now to the Russian government for its bloody war in Ukraine. Millions of men, including many who are in love and make passionate love with their wives or their girlfriends, millions of men are terrified of having family and friends find out they want sex also with certain men. Some bisexual men try to smother their desire with religion. Some bisexual men bully gays and yell, faggots. Some bisexual men kill themselves slowly with booze, trying to drown their desire for certain men. Some bisexual men kill themselves fast with a bullet, full of shame and guilt, often from the religion they were taught from childhood. Some bisexual murder LGBT persons, and many bisexual men live a double life. Some bisexual men have sex with many beautiful women and enjoy it. But they hope their hot sex with these beautiful women will shut off their strong attraction also for certain men. And I say, until any man on earth who enjoys sex and romance with men can tell his family, his friends, his work buddies with no shame, no fear, no guilt, and until that he is in love with men. And until any woman on earth who enjoys sex and romance with women can tell her family, her friends, her work girlfriends, with no shame, no fear, no guilt, our struggle for romantic freedom, romantic freedom must continue. Dear Ann Landers, 8 years ago, I found my son's body in the street. He had been killed by a hit-and-run driver on the way home from school. And since then, I've met with many other mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers who have lost loved ones. And they all agree with me on the following point. Please talk about the person we have lost, even if the mention of his name causes us to weep a little. It's a joy to speak of my son and to know that he has not been totally forgotten. I'm hurt when people who knew him never mention his name. It's as if these people are trying to pretend that he never lived. To deny that this beautiful child was an important part of our lives is both impossible and unrealistic. We may not be able to control what happens to us, death, accidents, or life's blows, but we do have a choice as to how we deal with those losses. Viktor Frankl, a respected psychiatrist, survived a Nazi concentration camp because of his great love for his wife who died there in the concentration camp. Frankl was determined not to let the Nazis destroy his spirit or his will to live. He kept himself alive by speaking about his beloved wife. She was his key to survival, even though she was dead. This person says, please tell your readers how important it is for those of us who have suffered losses to speak of the departed, to recall the good times, and to know that others remember them as well. And Ann Landers replies, most people are reluctant to talk about someone's loss for fear of opening old wounds. You have let them know that the real sadness comes from believing that loved ones have been forgotten. Dr. Stephen Sainsbury writes, during my more than 25 years as an emergency medicine physician, I treated hundreds of patients with gunshot wounds. I treated criminals who shot each other. I treated gun owners who had killed their family members in drunken rages. I pronounced dead suicide victims who shot themselves with an easily accessible handgun in their home. But he says, yet in all those years of emergency medicine, I never treated a single patient who was shot by a law-abiding citizen in self-protection. Not one. This emergency medicine physician says multiple reputable studies and surveys bolster what I observed. Choosing to have a gun in your home because it will keep you safe is a myth, a deadly myth. And yet surveys of gun owners show they are constantly citing self-protection as the main reason for 67%, two-thirds of gun purchases. Suppose you have the same fears and obtain a handgun. Which of these two scenarios is more likely? Choice one, the gun you just bought will save your life from criminals or home invaders. This is known as defensive gun use. Choice two, that gun will be used to kill you or a family member, whether that means the murder of a family member or an accidental shooting or a suicide. It's choice number 2 by a landslide. In 2017, according to FBI reports, for every so-called justifiable killing, a defensive gun use death, there were 35 criminal killings. And that doesn't even include the thousands of deaths every year by suicide or accidental deaths that occur when there's a handgun in the home. What's more likely, that someone will break into your home and threaten your family, or that a member of your family, in a moment of anger or drunkenness, will resort to wielding that same weapon against you? Or that in a moment of despair, a loved one will turn that easily accessible gun on themselves? Or that your 5-year-old, who knows exactly where you keep your gun, will accidentally shoot himself? Certain behaviors, not wearing a seat belt and shoulder harness or smoking cigarettes, increase your risk of injury and death. And having a handgun in the home is no different. The presence of a gun in your home dramatically increases the risk of killing another person, suicide, and accidental deaths. Be responsible. Be wise. Don't buy into the myth of owning a gun to protect yourself. The life you save may be your own. This powerful testimony from Dr. Stephen Sainsbury, an emergency medicine physician for more than 25 years. I have never owned a gun, and I never plan to. Al Bostelman was a soldier, but this military veteran became a peace activist. He says, what military training does to human beings is nurture the will to kill. It's done by a process that systematically depersonalizes individual recruits, shaving heads, issuing identical uniforms, waking trainees at 2 a.m. to scrub the floor with a toothbrush, are designed to turn a recruit into a soldier who will operate on the basis of unquestioning obedience to military supervisors and kill on command. Soldiers are in a chain of command, a chain of fear in which they have to do what those above say, or they will be hurt, and they will be hurt badly. And this military veteran who became a peace activist says, I remember the feelings of terror after we recruits were marched into meetings where we were informed of the consequences: jail, dishonorable discharge, not being able to find a job after we get out of the military. If we disobeyed our superiors, if we chose to follow our conscience instead of our superiors, if we revealed secrets. Military expediency is nothing short of learning how to kill, to maim, to torture, and to inflict suffering efficiently. War is a resolution of international conflict by means of mass suffering, torture, death. And military expediency is learning how to do that well and quickly. Bayonet trading sergeants were men who had a haunted look about them. They would scream at us, "Kill, kill." And we would scream back, "Kill, kill." Send your enemy back home to his mama in a coffin. And we would cheer, "Yeah." We were encouraged to scream as if we were crazy while attacking human dummies. Make believe the dummy is your worst enemy. The purpose, we were told, was to strike terror and make the enemy think we were a killing animal. What does it do to your soul when you kill another human being? A World War II veteran who was a sharpshooter back in the 1950s told how he had daily nightmares, remembering the faces of the young German soldiers he saw in the crosshair telescopic scope just before he exploded their faces and heads. He could not get rid of the images. A Congressional Medal of Honor recipient told his son that if he ever got into battle, to allow himself to be killed rather than live the hell of the memory of killing another human being. The powerful words of a military veteran, Al Bostelman, who became a peace activist. Walt Whitman, who lived in the 1800s, was one of the most famous poets ever in the United States. And in his Leaves of Grass Calamus collection, Walt Whitman tells of his strong romantic attraction to men. He knew that most, if not all, men could enjoy being in love with men. And I compliment Walt Whitman for his powerful poems about his being in love with men. At the same time, I condemn Walt Whitman's racist support for the awful U.S. war against Mexico in the 1840s. And a lesson from Walt Whitman's life for all of us: we all can be right on some things and so sadly wrong on other things. Some of his beautiful writing about his strong, passionate love for other men. When I heard at the close of the day how my name had been received with plaudits in the Capitol, still it was not a happy night for me that followed. And else when I caroused or when my plans were accomplished, still I was not happy. But the day when I rose at dawn from the bed of perfect health, refreshed, singing, inhaling the ripe breath of autumn, when I saw the full moon in the west grow pale and disappear in the morning light, and when I wandered alone over the beach in undressing baths, laughing with the cool waters, and saw the sunrise, and when I thought how my dear friend, my lover, was on his way coming, oh, then I was happy. And oh, then each breath tasted sweeter. All that day my food nourished me more. And the beautiful day passed well, and the next came with equal joy, and with the next at evening came my friend. And that night, while all was still, I heard the waters roll slowly, continually up the shores. I heard the hissing rustle of the liquid and sands as directed to me, whispering to congratulate me, for the one I love most lay sleeping by me under the same cover in the cool night. And in the stillness, in the autumn moonbeams, his face was inclined toward me, and his arm lay lightly around my breast. And that night, I was happy. From another poem of Walt Whitman, O Manhattan, your frequent and swift flash of eyes offering me love, offering response to my own, these repay me. Lovers, continual lovers, only repay me. Another poem of Walt Whitman. This moment, yearning and thoughtful, sitting alone, it seems to me there are other men in other lands, yearning and thoughtful. It seems to me I can look over and behold them in Germany, Italy, France, Spain, or far, far away in China, or in Russia, or Japan, talking other dialects. And it seems to me, if I could know those men, I should become attached to them as I do to men in my own lands. Oh, I know we should be brethren and lovers. I know I should be happy with them. Walt Whitman, another poem. When I peruse the conquered fame of heroes and the victories of mighty generals, I do not envy the generals, nor the president in his presidency, nor the rich in his great house. But when I hear of the brotherhood of lovers, how it was with them, how together through life, through dangers, odium, unchanging, long and long, through youth and through middle and old age, how unfaltering, how affectionate and faithful they were. Then I am pensive. I hastily walk away filled with the bitterest envy. Earth, my likeness, though you look so impassive, ample, and spheric there, I now suspect that is not all. I now suspect there is something fierce in you, eligible to burst forth. For an athlete is enamored of me, and I of him. But toward him there is something fierce and terrible in me, eligible to burst forth. I dare not tell it in words, not even in these songs. Imagine if Walt Whitman were living today, how much more free he would feel to tell frankly his sexual and romantic attraction and sex with other men. That shadow, my likeness, that goes to and fro, seeking a livelihood, chattering, chaffering. How often I find myself standing and looking at it where it flits. How often I question and doubt whether that is really me. But among my lovers and caroling these songs, oh, I never doubt whether this is really me. What think you I take my pen in hand to record? The battleship, perfect model, majestic, that I saw pass the offing today under full sail? Or the splendors of the past day, or the splendor of the night that envelops me, or the vaunted glory and growth of the great city spread around me? No. but merely of two simple men I saw today on the pier in the midst of the crowd, the parting of dear friends, the one to remain hung on the other's neck and passionately kissed him, while the one to depart tightly pressed the one to remain in his arms. The powerful poetry of Walt Whitman, who lived in the 1800s, about his great passion for certain other men. Carrie Seidman, a woman I knew some years ago, says almost anyone who has loved has at one time or another lost. And when it happens, how we react can make the difference in the quality of our lives forevermore. She says, my own realization half a dozen years ago that the anguish I had held onto for more than a decade over my own marital breakup had done nothing but caused me further damage. She says, either because I was sick of playing the martyr or because I had evolved, I hope, finally realized that when a relationship dies, hanging on to the hurt, hanging on to the anger, hanging on to the blame or revenge for any more than the brief period of insanity that follows such a disappointment is surely as damaging as the breakup was. She says, it now seems so simple, I cannot believe it took me 13 years to get it. Life is not fair. Life is not equal. People lie. People do bad things, make bad choices, create havoc in the lives of the people they say they love. All that's a given. But what isn't so clear is how we take the blow. We can become bitter and angry and combative. We can become wimpish and withdrawn and fearful, or any number of other shades in between. In fact, that's the only choice we do have when someone breaks our heart. How we're going to take it. How we're going to react. And she says, what took me far too long to realize is that the choice will have a far greater effect on oneself than on anyone else. The words that made it click for me, and they came not from a psychologist, not from a preacher, but from a girlfriend who'd been through her own hard knocks, was to be the bigger person. Not bigger in the sense of better, but bigger in the sense of more generous, more forgiving, more the kind of person we'd like to see when we look at ourselves. Carrie Seidman says, I now know it's possible to forgive and to move on because I've done it. Okay, I admit I was a little slow. I know my life has been better and fuller and happier since I've done so. I've even surprised myself on occasion with my Zen-like calm. Picture a pleasant holiday dinner involving all the players in my divorce. Imagine that. At my house, she said. And sometimes people ask me how I have mended the fences. And I tell them, The answer is really quite simple. I did not mend the fences. I took the fences down. What wonderful, wise words from Carrie Seidman. One of my favorite health books is Los Viejos, which means in English, the old ones, published in 1976. Los Viejos is about the very old people then in Vilcabamba in the mountains of Ecuador, South America. Some of them then were well over 100 years old. One man, supposedly 132, still healthy, still active, still loving life. They worked hard almost to the day they died. They had never taken prescription drugs. They never had yearly physicals. They ate mainly simple foods from the earth, not from McDonald's or some damn factory, not crap from fast food joints. They did not have much stuff, very little money, but they loved life. They treasured and talked about past romances, and they looked forward to new and more romances. The old man still had strong desire for sex and romance. Some were married 80 years or more. And after one partner died, marrying someone else was common up to 100 years old. And they were never too old to want and to talk about sex and romance. Why would an old man feel shame and guilt? Why would an old man consider himself a dirty old man for wanting sex and romance? Any more than a young man who wants sex and romance. To have a good old age, we need healthy bodies. We need close friends of all ages. We need many warm hugs. We need a reason to get up in the morning. We need passionate sex and romance if possible. We need to help others. We need to enjoy nature. We need to work for fairness and peace for all people on earth. We need just enough money to live simply and enjoy it. We need healthy food. We need a small, quiet place to live, to have a good old age. Years ago, here in Albuquerque, Paul Garcia buried his brother, and the same day, Paul's own wife and children left Paul after his brother's funeral. And the next day, Paul drank much tequila and beer. Paul was very depressed from the death of his brother and his wife and children's leaving him. Paul loved his brother who died, but sadly they had become alienated and had not made peace before the brother died. And Paul blamed himself for not making things right with his brother. Paul was very depressed. He talked of killing himself. He got into the car, drove, and crashed, killing a mother and daughter. Booze dealers, booze manufacturers, booze advertisers get filthy rich off other people's weaknesses and misery. Paul Garcia usually did not drink heavily. He never before had a ticket for driving under the influence. In fact, he used to get mad when he heard news reports about drunken drivers killing people. And if anyone had told Paul Garcia 2 weeks before he would kill a mother and daughter by driving drunk, he might not have been able to believe it, saying he would never be that stupid, that crazy, that cruel. But we all are weak in different ways, especially in some moments of our lives. And we can learn from Paul's tragedy. Booze is not the answer. Drink no booze. And if you're depressed, booze makes you more depressed. I drink no booze. I've seen what it does to many dear friends, devastating their lives, killing them years before they would have died if they had lived healthy. Nelson Mandela of Africa said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than hate." An African proverb says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa said, nuclear weapons are an obscenity. They're the very opposite of humanity, of goodness in the world. What security do nuclear weapons help establish? I wish every scientist in Los Alamos and Sandia Weapons Lab would ponder those words night after night and stop their damn jobs making nuclear weapons. Insanity. Fresh piss, a healthy drink to your health. And thanks for watching and listening. And I welcome you to stop and talk with me on the street as Francisco did today before I came to the studio. To your health.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind